Good morning YouTube, and welcome back to the African Allure Outdoors. My name is Ryan Clark. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're watching this again, thank you for tuning in. Please remember to like and subscribe down below. Hit that bell button. Today I want to talk to you about achieving perfect arrow flight. We as archers, we spend a lot of time working on our bows and the specs of our bows. And I feel that we as South Africans or as Africans don't spend enough time actually working on the most important part, and that is the part that is actually going to make contact with the animal that you are hunting. And I think we can take the page out of a lot of reloaders. I'm a big rifle hunter myself. I do a lot of management with a rifle, not specifically on my bow hunting farm, but on other places. I reload all my ammunition for my own rifles, and I like to achieve perfection there. My rifles are very, very simple, very, very basic. I have basic scopes, but one thing I can assure you, each and every one of them shoots the best that they can. For me, what I like to achieve with a rifle is I like to try and put 3 bullet holes into a hole about the size of your little nail, and then I've achieved what I've done. So I've got 2 rounds with me here today, both of which I reload for. One is a 22-250, and this is a very fast caliber, shoots at 3,650 feet per second. It has a 55 grain head. This one over here is a 416 Rigby, shoots a 400 grain head, and it shoots that at about 2,300, and I think the last one was 2,320 feet per second. So considerably slower. 2 very different uses for this. This is a fast, flat shooting varminting gun. This one is specifically for dangerous game. This one you can hunt small game with. It just leaves a bigger hole. This one you can hunt small game with. It's incredibly fast. It shoots flat. This one has a lot of kinetic energy, but it loses that kinetic energy just as quickly. This one has momentum, and momentum hits hard and it punches right through, especially when you're hunting the pachyderms. So we don't spend enough time working on our arrows. So today I'm going to start with you how I go through my process of tuning my arrows for perfect arrow flight. So yesterday I was out hunting. I hunted 2 animals. One was a bit unexpected, but came in, and I put an arrow through both of these animals. I got complete pass-throughs. I shoot a 760 grain arrow, and both arrows' fletchers were damaged yesterday, so I had to cut them both off. So I've got the arrow with me here. Obviously I don't have a broadhead point on here at the moment. I have a field point, but this field point is exactly the same as my broadhead. This is 200 grains, and I stripped off the fletchers in the pop-up blind. If you followed me on Instagram, you probably would have seen the video that I put up there yesterday. So I'm going to start with you, because I do this every time I take the fletchers off my arrows. I start off with a basic procedure, and that is called nock tuning. There are a number of videos on YouTube regarding this. I'll put some links down to some of those down in the description below, and you can go and check them out. But this is how I do it. I think since the start of lockdown, I've shot now with the bow, I think I've shot about 27 or 28 animals. I need to go and have a look. Those including the 2 yesterday. And on every single one, I've had a pass through, except for the Nyala that I first shot at the beginning. I put the first arrow, went right through him. The second arrow did not, although it did penetrate the skin on the other side. It didn't go all the way through, but it was had a lot of material to go through. So where I start with this, what I do is I start by nock tuning. So with nock tuning, what you want to do is you want to make yourself a mark on your nock and your shaft. You should be able to see that over there. And then you fire. In my case, how I do it is I shoot at a broadhead butt at about 20 yards or so. Other people do it through paper, but I just really try and keep it simple. So what I do is I fire that first arrow and I see how that arrow lands on the butt. And you'll tend to find this is very typical of how the arrow will look when you approach the butt from where you shot from. And that means that your arrow is not flying perfectly. It means that your arrow is actually yawing in flight and it's flying sideways. So what you do is you take your nock and you would turn that nock a quarter turn and then you'd shoot again. And you might find that that angle now is now a little bit more exaggerated. You know, it might be a little bit this way, and you fire again, and you keep firing until you find the sweet spot. You'll hear a lot of people say that they spine index arrows. I don't have a spine index meter. I really just like to keep it simple. So what I do is I keep moving this nock around until I find that sweet spot, that when you have a look at the arrow, it's pretty much as near center as where you were shooting from. And the best way is to go and stand behind the butt and look at where the arrow shafts are pointing. If it's pointing towards where you were standing, then you're on the right place. Then what you do is you take acetone and you just take off those marks and then you just remark it again, and that's your nock tune. You will see that I'm going to put in the video a little bit in a little while that I took 2 arrows that were nock tuned and I shot them into a butt, and then I took 2 arrows and I actually tuned them out, shot them into a butt, and then I took a 5th arrow, turned this back to where the marks were, and you'll see that it went in there. And I think on the nock tuned arrows, the best penetration I got was 10 inches. And the worst one I got was 15 inches, whereas the non-tuned, the out-of-tune nock arrows were pretty consistent in that they were 19 inches plus. That was left sticking out of the butt. I shoot almost full length arrows. I'm shooting 31.5 inches at the moment, so that means that I'm only getting on the non-nock tuned ones, I'm getting only 12 inches of penetration, whereas on the other ones I'm getting 20 inches. So this is where you start with tuning your arrows, or hand loads, or reloading your arrows for perfect arrow flight. And I can't stress to you enough that this applies to whatever broadheads you're using, is try and achieve perfect arrow flight. And the way you do that is you start with a nock. On the next video I'll probably run through the fletching, and then we'll do fletch tuning of the arrows, and then the last thing is we do the broadhead tuning of that. But normally I have found that when you do the nock tuning, the fletch tuning and the broadhead tuning is actually, it's almost minimal. In fact, it's almost zero that you have to do on that. And I can bare shaft shoot this arrow because of its high FOC and its weight out to 40 yards without fletches. Remember that if you're shooting an arrow that has got a good FOC, the arrow is being pulled by the front, and basically the fletches at the back are just correcting any issues you might have with your bow. But is square to the where I'm shooting from, but the arrow is definitely not where I'm aiming from. Okay, so when your nock tuning is perfectly tuned up, your arrow will point straight to where you've been shooting from. So we're going to do 4 samples of a nock tuned arrow and one that's nock tuned. So here's the first one. This is a nock tuned arrow, so watch out. So first arrow, this one is nock tuned. You can see over here that my nock alignment marks line up. Penetration 20 yards, and we're at 13.5 inches. That is still outside of the butt. This is the second nock tuned arrow. The impact point is exactly the same. The arrow is pointing in the right direction, and this one is at just over 10.5 inches on the Alright, so this is the second arrow that I've put into the butt. The impact point is exactly the same. You see the marks are still lined up. Penetration on this one was a lot better. You'll see that this one went in at just over 10.5 inches. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn this knock, that we're going to take it out of Nock Tune basically. Okay, so here is the non-Nock tuned arrow. You'll see that the marks don't line up. The arrow is off center to my shooting point. It's further off to the right from the shooting point. Impact point is not far out, but it's definitely not the same as the Nock tuned arrow. You will see if I measure this as well, we're looking at 19 inches that this arrow didn't penetrate. So on the Nock tuned arrows, you're getting better penetration because you're getting better arrow flight. One more arrow and we'll check the results. This is the fourth arrow. Again, it's not lined up. We're going to measure what is sticking out of the butt, and we're at the same, just over 19.25 inches. That has not penetrated the arrow because of arrow tuning. Again, the arrow is to the right of the shooter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten this up and we're going to fire one more arrow. So we are now nock lined again, and I'm going to shoot one more arrow, and then we're going to see the difference in penetration. So it will be 5 shots in total. Okay. So this is arrow number 5. I realigned the nock. Hit point is exactly the same. Penetration 15 inches. Anyway, thank you for watching. Remember to please like and subscribe down below. I appreciate your comments. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook at the African Allure Hunting Safaris, and stay tuned for the next one. Thank you for watching. Cheers.